Hey, everybody. Welcome to Horse Center. Tonight, our guest, Jonathan Stettin, did make it this evening. Tonight, he didn't get caught in the airport or anything like that. Jonathan Stettin from Past the Wire. How you doing tonight?
Very good. And thank you guys for having me on the show. It's a pleasure. Appreciate it.
Thank you for coming on. We appreciate it. Definitely like the hat there.
Thank you.
Did we get one? No, just kidding.
No, not right now.
Yeah, beforehand, I was saying we're going to have some merchandise soon, and he said he's been out of those hats for a while. So that's
I keep meaning to order more. A lot of people ask me for them. I feel bad, and I just got to get around to it. I got a lot of pens. I got a closet full of pens that anybody wants a pen, I'd be happy to send them to you. They're nice, but hats I don't have right now. I'm going to get them.
Well, hopefully that'll change soon. Yeah, we'll have some merchandise soon as well. We came into contact with Jonathan because we did an interview a couple of weeks back with Chantel Sutherland, and during our course of our conversation, she kind of pulled the curtain back a little bit on some of the things that go on the track. And I, at the time when the conversation was happening, I thought, well, this is just standard, probably horse racing etiquette. We don't really know because we're not on the track. Apparently, she caught a lot of flack for that, or some flack for that, from the Twitter trolls, and she went on your show, Past the Wire, to kind of clarify a little bit about that. What did you think about that whole situation?
Well, it was an interesting situation, and it turned into be a bit more of a controversy than I think it needed to be. And I do get both sides of it. I understand the people that are frustrated by that, and I understand the people that kind of know it's pretty much a daily occurrence here. Patrick Cummings got involved and brought up how that just doesn't happen in Hong Kong. But if you look at the Hong Kong rules, they're so strict. And actually, I'm all for that. Okay, I think racing should be policed much stricter than it is, and the rules should be much stricter than they are. But until they are that way, and until our sport adopts to that type of running it, it is what it is. Riders on a case-by-case basis are at times going to give another rider room, and at times they're not. And maybe her choice of words irritated some people. Oh, he owes me a favor now. Someday he'll pay me back. All that stuff kind of evens out. You know what I mean? The people that are upset, one day they'll cash a ticket because somebody gave them room, and one day they won't. It's just the way race riding happens in the United States. So you would have to completely change it, in some kind of uniform fashion to make it any different. It's reality. If that frustrates you, you should know you're playing a game where that happens. You know what I mean? It is what it is. And we mentioned. I think I said it on the show that Chantal was on, but I've said it to other people before, and I've caught flack over it. But I believe it. Years ago, trainer Jeff Mullins in California made a statement that, if a lot of people knew everything that goes on the backside and in races and with horses, and, I can't quote him exactly, but something to that effect, then, a lot of them wouldn't bet. And, when he said it, he caught a tremendous amount of flack and criticism for it. But I knew then he was right because I've been around the backside. I've been around a lot of different areas of the sport. And there's a lot of stuff that goes on in the game of horse racing. I mean, it is what it is. I'll give you some examples. Sometimes, you're betting on a horse first time out of the box, okay, and you're putting your money on a horse, and the horse missed a work because the track was bad, missed another work because he was sick, and the trainer says, hey, you know what? He's not really ready today. Let's give him a nice easy run, keep him out of trouble, get him, nice education, and we'll be much tighter, next time out. If you know that going in, you probably don't want to bet that horse. And I don't blame you. But the funny thing is, those horses sometimes pop up and win and fool everybody too. Trainers that have entered a second horse in a race just to fill the race and make it go. And guess what? The horse they entered to fill the race and make it go for the horse they thought was going to win jumps up and wins. Part of the game. Horse racing has intangibles. If you don't understand that, it's not it's not the game for you, man.
Well, just ask the jockey who was betting against himself and still won, right?
That's this whole nother animal. I don't even know how to go, where to go with that one. It's funny when that happened. I actually tweeted that out. I'm like, I wonder if he won any of those races. And when he did, I was like, I can't believe that. This guy did that. But I actually feel sorry because I've heard a lot of stories about him, and I hear he's actually a nice kid, and obviously he's got some problems.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, I mean, only in horse racing, you can't make this stuff up.
No, well, I prefer horse. I mean, this is something I know Shawn kind of wants to get into. But the big conversation, and I think to me the big threat to horse racing is sports betting, because we've talked to a lot of big sports bettors through the course of a little bit of time Shawn and I have been together, and they all talk about the takeout, right, in horse racing versus the takeout in pro sports. But I think there's another side to that coin too, right? That I don't think our brand does enough to kind of promote this side. And that is, you're betting against the house, and there's some numbers geek behind there to make sure the house always has an edge on you, right? Whereas when you're betting in horse racing, much like poker, you're betting against other horse players out of the mutual pool.
Correct.
You're not going to find, like today on our show, a gentleman came on and told us, hey, look, there's a 30-1 shot running in the sixth race at Gulfstream. Well, you're not going to get too many plus 3,000 winners in the sports book. You can get them in horse racing.
Right.
And reading in your bio, you've made your name doing pick sixes. I read that you won one for like $500,000 or something like that.
And that's when $500,000 was a lot of money. That was in the early 90s. So, but I won a lot of them. I won a lot for, 100, 200,000, when I used to play them regularly. But yeah, no, that for a long time was my major bet.
And you'd have a very difficult time tonight going to a sports book, taking 6 picks and putting them together in a parlay, if you will, and end up winning $500,000.
100%, Rich. And, I've always said that, what negates or equalizes the takeout and some of the other hurdles, and that's value. We have an opportunity to get tremendous odds and tremendous value if we structure our wages properly and go in looking for that and knowing that and bet that way. I think one of the biggest mistakes that a lot of bettors make is, in pick 4s, pick 5s, pick 6s, pick 3s, whatever the case may be, they use too many horses and want to have it for 50 cents and just cash the ticket. My philosophy for a long time has been to cash less tickets but win more money. I don't want to have 50 cents. I'd rather leave a couple of horses off the ticket that I know can jump up and beat me, but have it for $5 or $10. And when I'm right, make it count and get paid. And that's been my philosophy. And, it's not for everybody because, there's a lot of days I, lick my wounds, live to fight another day. But when I'm right, I do well. And I'm right enough to, be successful with that style. And again, it's not for everybody. You got to have a certain mentality to play the game that way. But I agree with what you're saying. I think that, value and the odds that we can get is a tremendous advantage over, sports betting and some other games as well.
And I think the sport has to do a better job of that. And also understanding how the money pools work. You can handicap. You could be the best damn handicapper in the world. You can pick 6 straight 50-1 shots. But if there's only $2,000 in the pool, what can that do for you? So you have to understand the money pools as well.
100%. There's so many facets to this game. I mean, I think there's three things, and what you said ties into it. I think you've got to be able to handicap and do your homework for sure. You've got to know how to structure your wages for sure. And you've got to know how to manage your money, which I think ties into knowing the pools and knowing where and how much you can invest and get a decent return, which is why my entire game has changed. I bet much less now by choice than I have in many years. And that's 100% by choice. And there's a lot of reasons for that. But, one of the main reasons is there are only certain days that I really feel the pools justify my really stepping out and going after, those kind of big scores that I like to make in this game. And there's, maybe 8, 10 days a year that I say fall into that category.
For sure.
Hey, John, my question here is, now you're on both sides of this category. You love the game. You're inside the game. You know a lot of jockeys and stuff. You're a big bettor. There's a lot of big bettors that all they care about is that money. But I don't feel like as a sport we capitalize on the great people involved in the sport. Like the Chantel Sutherland interview. Instead of taking anything good from that, they took all the bad from that.
I
mean,
don't
and
think
this
there
is
was
part
anything bad in that, Sean, to be honest. It's just somebody telling the truth. There's never anything
well,
bad in the
no,
truth.
I know, but how, and this is part of what this show's about, like making horse racing more positive. Like you should be able to watch horse racing and root like Trevor McCarthy, how well he was doing, you know, sitting down, watching Trevor McCarthy, see how he's doing, see how the horses are doing without having to bet. But we have these people that they just put a ton of money in the pool and we need them, but they not very positive for the sport. If I'm saying that right.
Yeah, no, I get what you're saying. I mean, you know, gambling is a major part of the sport. It's a gambling sport. It fuels the sport. The only two people that put money into the sport as opposed to take it out are the bettors or gamblers and the owners. Everybody else is taking money out of the game. They're the only two groups that are putting money in the game, and they probably have the least heard voice and the least amount of rights of anybody in the game. They get stepped on the most, which is a bad business model. But I think horse racing is horse racing's own worst enemy. We're a dysfunctional sport on many levels. We can't even fix low-hanging fruit, never mind the major issues. You know, HISA was a promising thing, can't come to pass. They can't get an agreement with the Department of Agriculture. We can't stagger post times at the big races, for crying out loud. You know what I'm saying? On a Saturday afternoon, you got two stake races going off, and one track is holding the horses behind the gate, waiting for the other one to run so they can run right on top of each other. It's just it's a top heavy, too many chiefs, not enough Indians, brain dead kind of sport. And there's a lot of negativity. And you know, social media has created a whole new dynamic of people that are involved in the game. A lot of them are negative. Some of them are positive. But, you know, one thing I will tell you about social media, it makes people brave. People act on social media in ways that they a lot of times don't act in person the same way. They say things on social media they don't say in person. You see a lot of these people are calling that, and I'll use Chantal as an example, and I don't want to cause her any grief at all because I think she's wonderful and she was honest and upfront and upright. But you have people that are bashing her for what she said on social media that'll see her at the racetrack and say, "Oh, take a selfie with me," or "Oh, hi Chantal," and you know, never utter a peep. And it's probably better that way because that's the last thing that we need. But social media makes a lot of, you know, mountains out of molehills and issues that aren't there. And, you know, especially when you deal with anonymous accounts and people who don't, you know, you don't know even who they are half the time. So it just is what it is. It's something that we have to deal with. You know, it's got its good points and its bad points. Personally, I think the bad outweighs the good in the way it's evolved. But it is what it is. It's here, and you know, it gives everybody a voice or something to say, and you know, it is what it is.
A lot of keyboard alphas, like you said.
Yeah, no, absolutely.
Where I grew up, man, like you probably, you know, you grew up in New York on the streets, you know, going out as a young man like me, and I used to tell people, you want to talk like a man, you better be prepared to act like a man and be treated like a man, right? You don't have that today behind a keyboard.
100% true. You know what I mean? I've you know, been attacked on social media numerous times, sideways and off color ways, by a lot of different people. And you know, I've come across two in all the years that I decided to go up to, and they were both very extremely different and extremely surprised. In a one-on-one face-to-face meeting, you know, didn't you know, wasn't how they thought it was going to be. So it happens. You know, it is what it is. Now I ignore that kind of stuff. I don't let it bother me anymore. I just take it as part of social media. Most of the time, I won't even respond. I just, you know, if somebody's a complete idiot, you know, their head separates their ears, I just mute them. You know, and that's it.
So you don't deal with idiots yet? You came on our show. What happened there? You suspended that rule.
What?
I said you don't deal with idiots yet. You came on our show. You suspended that rule.
Guys are you guys are all right. No, I you know, I felt bad because when I had Chantal on as the follow up, I wanted to put a link to your show, and I saw the clip from it, And I thought I remembered the name because I relied too much on my memory. And then I went to go find it so I could say, I'm like, I don't know how I can't find this. And I'm searching and searching and searching. And before you know it, we were on the end. I'm like, listen, I think it's horse racing rat. I don't know what it is, but I'm going to find out and put a link. And ultimately I did when you guys got in touch, but I felt bad because I didn't want to do that without telling people about the original show that started the whole conversation and the whole, discussion that I thought was worth following up on, because I really didn't think that she said or did anything wrong or anything that doesn't happen every day on the racetrack in the United States. Okay, doesn't happen in Hong Kong because it's against the rules in Hong Kong. It's not against the rules here, So.
And I'll say before that show, I've heard of Past the Wire. I've seen clips of, but I haven't known much. So why don't you tell our viewers more about how Past the Wire came along and about your podcast show, YouTube show too?
Listen to me, all right? And I've never said this on the air, but we're live here, whatever it is. If I ever told people, and someday I will, how Past the Wire came to be, they probably wouldn't believe me, and it would be an enormous laugh. But how it on paper came to be is years ago, Dan Tordman, who at the time had a website, Anonymous Dan, really nice guy, works for America's Best Racing now. He asked me to write a guest column on his website. And I wrote about the day that my brother and I and my dad went to the racetrack to bet the pick six when Smarty Jones was going for the Triple Crown. And my dad and my brother loved Smarty Jones. They thought he was going to win the Triple Crown. And I loved Birdstone. Now, my brother and I used to bet partners in pick sixes all the time. And we took down an awful lot of them. So he was like, no, we got to spread here. We got to do this. We got to do that. I'm like, and we'll single Smarty Jones. I'm like, no, we got to use Birdstone. We got to use Birdstone. Anyway, long story short, I wrote the column. How we were screaming at the end, get him Edgar, get him Edgar, get him Edgar. The pick six paid $56,000. We hit it. I had the pick four a bunch of times. It was a $150,000, $200,000 day for me, whatever it was. I don't remember. But the column was popular and people liked it. So Dan said, you want to do it again? And I said, sure, I'll do it again. And I started doing it and doing it and doing it. And ultimately, I decided, you know what? I'm doing this so often, I'm just going to start a website. And I just called it Past the Wire, and it just evolved into a multifaceted, even news site. You know what I mean? I mean, we have really everything on there. Thank you, Robert. Really appreciate that. And we do everything. Nick D'Agostino came on board for a while, very good friend of mine. And he kind of took it to that next news media level and got us accredited and got us this and that and the other thing, and just really took us to the next level where now we have, a couple 100,000 visitors a month. I mean, we're right up there as far as traffic on the website with some of the big major players in the industry. And I never, ever dreamed that anything like that would ever happen from Past the Wire.
And you have something there called Tracking Trips. What's that?
Tracking Trips is kind of what I think is a unique thing. There are more people now doing it like this. I know that Trip Note Pro service, they get a lot of attention on media. I don't get a lot of attention. I don't really advertise Tracking Trips much at all. But Tracking Trips is a subscription-based service, very inexpensive. I think $20 a month, $25 a month. I don't even know. And what goes on there are horses that I observed something about that caught my eye, either a troubled trip, a bad ride, a mistake, running against a bias, a race that looked better than it was, or vice versa, a race that was better than it looked, and my kind of trip notes on certain horses. 10 figs are on there for those races. That's kind of a speed rating, a trouble rating, a race rating system that I developed on my own, 100% subjective. It's based on my observation of the trip and how good or bad a horse ran. And also on there, I'll sometimes put like every day, like horses to watch, like different angles or different things that I watch for, different moves or stuff that I know trainers make. And some days there's nothing on there. So if you remember, you log on, you see if I've got any thoughts that day or any of the horses that are on the list of running back. And, if they are, I'll put what, if I think they're in the right or wrong spot or whatever the case may be. And my notes are there. I suggest anybody who does become a member, if I put something about a horse, just put them in your stable mail. You know what I mean? And I like to call it a second set of trained eyes. You know, now so many people are betting from home. You know, if we're going to the track in the same racetrack every day, we're talking to each other, we're interacting. Hey, who do you like? What do you think? Did you see this race? Did you see that? We lose a lot of that when we're betting on our phones at home. So tracking trips to me is like a second set of eyes. You know, a lot of people will message me and ask me questions. What do you think it is? Who do you like in this race? So it's kind of like a little clan or club, so to speak, of members where you know, we have some fun and we make some scores. We get hot. Even when we're cold, we're pretty good. And right now we've been cold because the racing's been a little bit slim picking for my style of betting. But even when we're cold, we're better than a lot of people when they're hot. So,
So Jordan wants to know, what was your biggest hit lifetime?
My biggest hit lifetime in one day was that pick six, which was just shy of 600,000, 595,000. That was one day. But I've had more $150,000, $200,000 days, 250,000 than I could even count. And you know, one story I tell a lot. A couple, not last year, the year before, I was alive. I invested about $1,100 or $1,200 in the Kentucky Derby pick six and pick five. And I was alive with two horses going into the Derby in both bets. I had Honor AP for $500,000 and Sol Volante for about 1.1 million between the pick five and the pick six combined. Didn't cash. But a lot of people think that Honor AP ran the best race that day and made up a ton of ground. I didn't see it that way. I was so excited going into the race because it's hard on $1,000 bet to be alive for that kind of money. You know what I'm saying? But I love Chad Brown's horse, Digital Age. He was my single at like 7 or 8 to 1. He won. Thank you. That was fun to do with Lafitte Pincay. Appreciate that, Robert. He was a great guy to interview, and you know, I watched his whole career. But it's hard to be alive for that kind of money. So I was excited. I'm like, wow, if I close this deal on $1,000, $1,200 bet for $1 million or $500,000, that's a nice payday on that kind of bet, you know?
Oh yeah, for sure. On any bet.
I really thought I had a shot. I really did. You know, I even told my wife, I said, listen, I don't like to get excited before the race, but you may want to watch this one. She goes, let me know if I win. I'm not watching. And right out of the gate, I knew I was dead. Okay. Sol Volante just didn't come out and run. He was 100 lengths back. Honor AP was not. I'm like, oh, well, this is not going to work out. But what are you going to do? You got to watch and hope for a miracle. And Honor AP did make up a lot of ground. And according to Trackers, did run several feet further than anybody else. And a lot of sharp people said, you know, you probably had the best horse. I honestly don't think so. But, you know, my philosophy is, okay, I didn't close the deal that day. I'll close one. You know, it's only a matter. The way I play and the way I look at it, it's only a matter of time. You know, it's not if it's going to happen. It's when it's going to happen. Could be this week. Could be next week. Could be next year. But it's going to happen. And you know, when you win a couple of those, or even a couple of 160, 80, 120, 150,000, you know, you only need a couple of those a year to be in the black. You know what I'm saying?
I haven't had one in a lifetime, so I
just
need one. Honestly, I don't bet.
I'm going to tell you why that is. All right. Most people have a hard time staying focused and only going for those kind of hits. You know what I mean? If you just changed your game where, you know what? I'm going to do what John said for a year. I'm going to bet. I'm going to cash less, but try and win more and eliminate and take a stand and not be afraid. Like one of the things I was talking to was about the Pegasus. You can't use Life is Good and Knicks Go. You got to decide who you like better and just use that one. And there's no room on your tickets for the other one. You know what I mean? And, you know, if you like somebody else and you don't like them, yeah, leave them off and just use the one you like. It's so hard for people to bet that way. Thank you, Jordan. Appreciate it. It's so hard, you know, and it goes against human nature. Human nature is you want to cash as many tickets as possible because you think that means you're going to win as much money as possible, but it doesn't. You know, what really matters is how much you can minimize the losses, and you know, it's all profit and loss. It's all a P&L. You want the black column to grow and the red column to be small. You know, a lot of times I'll lose to horses I know could beat me because I like this one better, and I'm going to take a shot with that one, and I go for the kill. You know what I mean? And I think to be successful long term in this game as a gambler and come out ahead, and I made a living only betting horses for many, many years. I think you have to have that philosophy or a similar philosophy that works for you if that's not it. But I don't know any other that worked for me.
That reminds me, that's actually how I got into gambling, is that a good friend of mine's father, Joe, right. I won't put his last name out. There was a professional blackjack player down in Las Vegas, because I grew up in the Poconos, not too far from you. Spent many a teenage day in New York City. But anyway, I'm surprised I'm still alive after some of those trips in there. But he always told me, I said, Mr. G, I almost let out his last name there. How do you do it? What's the secret? And he said, Rich, you have to have more money on your winning hands than you have on your losing hands. And I said, that's a really smart answer, because if I knew which hands were going to win, which hands would lose, I would never play the losing hands, right? So he referred me to his books, and it's just all about, like you said, money management and getting that going.
It's so important. You could be the best handicapper in the world, literally the best out there, gentlemen. And if you don't know how to bet, you're not going to win money. I know a couple of guys that are very sharp bettors and very sharp money managers and not really that good handicappers. And they do better than the people who are good handicappers and don't know how to manage their money or don't know how to bet. And you got to go against your instinct of wanting to cash more tickets and wanting to use more horses. The 50-cent minimum denomination, I think, hurt the game in the long run. And hurts a lot of people because it gets them into a bad mentality. I'd rather a $2 minimum, which forces a lot of people. And I grew up that way. Okay. Mm-hmm. So to me, it was different. I couldn't afford to just willy-nilly bet. If I didn't bet and win, I didn't eat. You know what I mean? I mean, that was my livelihood. So I had to know what I was doing, so to speak, and know how to manage my money. I sometimes had a lot of money on me, but everything I had was in my pocket. You know what I mean? There was no bank account or nothing like that. No regular checks coming in. It was all, gambling. So I had to learn what works, what doesn't work. And, the $2 minimums force you to make a decision. You can't just use 50 cent, throwing this one, throwing that one, throwing that one. You know what I mean? You're forced to make a decision. So what does that force you to do? It forces you to be disciplined, and it forces you to do your homework, because you make a couple of decisions where, you know what? I didn't see that till after the race. That happens to you 2 or 3 times with case money. You learn not to let that happen to you anymore. I don't beat myself. You'll never hear me say, you know what? I didn't see that. I make sure I see it. I may read it wrong. I may not play it right. You know what I mean? I lose more than I win, just like everybody else. But I'm wrong more than I'm right in this game. We all are. Anybody tells you they're not is full of it. But I've learned to make it count and not beat myself with what I would call a rookie mistake or a novice type of mistake by not seeing or paying attention to something that's there in front of you.
All details. Yes, I hate that. That happens to me sometimes. So I think I know the answer to this question. Our Terry says, do you ever, in any race in the pick 4, 5, or 6, especially if it's a maiden claiming race with several first-time starters, do you ever hit the all button?
All right. I had Keelan Dan on a show with me once because he's a big proponent of the all button. I'm not. I could count on one hand the times in my life I use all. I have the philosophy where there's got to be 1 or 2 I could leave out. Okay. And bet it for more. You know what I'm saying? Instead of betting it for $1, maybe if I leave a horse out here and 2 horses out there, now I could bet it for $2 or $3. That's my mentality. And let me tell you, again, not for everybody. I've been burned. Okay. There's nothing like, I've lost pick 6s, pick 5s, and pick 4s with 9 out of 12 horses. Okay. And there's no worse feeling when you got 9 out of 12 and one that you don't have is in front by 3 and another one is second by 2. And you're like, looking, where's somebody going to come out of the pack? It's a horrible feeling. It's not for everybody. It's not for the faint of heart, but that's how I play. I'll always like I said, on one hand, I could count the times that I call.
This would be another answer I pretty much know the answer to, but I'll ask anyway. That brings up, people always say about hedging a bet. So if you have 9 of 12 in the last leg, would you ever hedge? No.
I don't never, ever bet against my opinion. I don't ever bet against myself. My thought is, and it's stubborn, you know what I mean? You know, my mom used to tease me and my dad when I was a kid. I had a hard Calabrese head and could never get anything to it. That's one of the things, never got to it. I don't bet against myself. I bet my own opinion. My thought is, if I was worried about those 3 horses, I would have used them on my ticket. Okay. So I don't hedge, and it has burned me a couple of times. But like I said, I look at it like, okay, today is not the end all be all. All right. It's a marathon. It's not a sprint. I may go down today because I was stubborn and didn't use those horses. But when I'm right, I'm going to get paid and I'm going to make up for this loss 10 times over if I stick to my way of doing it. So, short answer, no, I don't hedge.
So for ticket construction, is there any book? I know I have the best ticket construction book I've read is How to Bet Thoroughbreds with Steven Davidovitz, where he talks a lot about ticket construction. Have you taken a look at that, or is that what you're familiar with?
Never read a book on horse racing. My dad taught me how to read a racing form when I was about 11 or 12 years old, and everything since then I've kind of learned on my own, with one exception. That was a guy named Teddy, who was one of the first big raggers and cheat players, who, when I was about maybe 20 or 21 years old, and he was back then one of the most dangerous bettors I ever saw. Okay. Back then you had to bet 250 was the maximum amount, okay, that you could bet. And he would go to the window, and this was a typical Teddy bet. He would say, give me 250 to win on the 4 10 times. Boom, 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 boom. Give me $250 exacta, 4-6, 10 times. Boom, boom, boom. And he'd walk away. So all he had was the 4 to win and the 4-6 exact. And he would hit him cold just like that. No 6-4, 4-6 only, which is how I bet now. Anyway, one day, and I wrote an article about this on Pass to Wire as well. He sees me and he says hello. And I say hello. He goes, do you like anything today? And I remember the horse. It was a Canadian filly named Carotene, Carotene, that was running in the stake race at Belmont. And I said, oh, I love this filly today. She ran good against the boys in Canada coming in, blah, 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 blah. And he just looked at me and he made like a face. And I'm like, what? And he goes, if you like that horse, you shouldn't bet the race. And he walked away. So I said to my friend Joey, I said, well, what kind of thing is that to say? If you like that horse, don't bet the race. What do you think he is? What's wrong with this guy? That was rude, you know? Sure enough, Carotene runs off the board, okay, with my money riding on her back. So the next day was Sunday, bright and early in the morning, and he was always had the rags and sheets with him, always. And this is when hardly anybody had him, okay? I see him walking, and I go over to him. I'm like, Teddy, I got to ask you, man. You said that to me yesterday. Yeah, he goes, that filly was just too slow. I'm like, you got to teach me how to read those things, man. You got to teach me what those things are and what they mean and how you read them. And he said, okay, you got time? I said, yeah. And we sat down for an hour, and he painstakingly went through them with me. And I used the Ragazines for many, many, many years after that, ultimately Thoroughgraph. But thanks, man. Appreciate it. Anytime you guys want me on, I'll come on anytime. My pleasure. But he taught me a lot, and it elevated my game, because back then a lot of people weren't using the sheets. So you would back then find something you'd never find today. Today, if a horse is outright faster than everybody on the sheets, he opens up 3 to 5. There's just no way around it. Back then, they would open up 20 to 1. You know what I mean? And no, there were only a handful of people that really knew. But that's the only guy that ever taught me, other than my dad reading the form, anything about betting and horse racing and the sheep. Never read a book. Don't know what is in any of those books. I'd like to write one myself one day if I ever had the discipline and the time, but probably will never happen.
Yeah, I started writing a stock book. It takes forever, and you get bored. But in any case, that brings me to the last question, and we'll let you run. You mentioned that nowadays you can't get that, because the fact of the matter is the syndicates are out there with all these people running the numbers, right? So one of the biggest complaints I hear, Terry brings this one up pretty regularly, is that they hate when you have a 2 to 1 or 3 to 1, or maybe I've had one that went from 5 to 1 to like all the way down to almost like 8 to 5, right as the gates open. I think New York does this right, where they close the window to syndicates 3 minutes before post. You think every track should do that? Because I have to say that's got to be the most frustrating thing. And I think it's one of those things that may not necessarily be a bad thing, but it certainly has like a negative tone to it because it's almost like they're cheating, even though they're not.
Right. No, and it feels that way, but nobody ever complains when the odds go up, and they do tick up every now and then. Okay, It's happened to me. It's happened to me both ways. I've made big bets on horses and looked at the board and said, "Wow, what happened?" Holy cow, I'm winning a lot less than I expected. And a couple of times, it's gone the other way. So it does go both ways. I believe that, and it's probably an unpopular opinion. I think that, we don't invest nearly enough money in our technology, our tote system. And one of the things that I think that we should have, and I know the capability exists, and I think us as bettors deserve it, are real-time odds and real-time everything. And when the gate closed, every dollar is accounted for. You follow me? Boom. That technology exists. Just none of the tote companies want to, none of the racetracks, nobody wants to pay for it because the tote is the last thing that gets any money in this game. Our tote systems are old, antiquated. I mean, if not for the pick six fiasco in the Breeders' Cup, we'd still be on that old system where they were betting pick sixes 3 races into the thing. Okay. And that happened. We know that. If Val Pony doesn't win the Breeders' Cup Classic, it's still probably happening today. They would have never updated anything. The tote system gets no revenue, no money. We should have real-time odds, and when the bell closes, you know what the odds are. Boom. You know
that's
what I mean? And that's it. Every dollar is accounted for in real time, and that's easy enough to do. But like I said, we can't even stagger the post times. There's a stake race Saturday going to go off when the Pegasus goes off. I guarantee you, just because horse racing's worst enemy, man. We're just a dysfunctional industry, top heavy. A lot of the shot callers, so to speak, care about the paycheck and this week. And I'm just going to ride it out, getting my big checks and my pay as long as I can. And if the sport dies, it dies, or whatever happens, after my watch happens. And it's a shame because it's a great sport. Used to be the sport of kings. There's a video clip I have on my website. I think it was 1980 or 81, where John Henry was being paraded in the Belmont paddock before the Jockey Club Gold Cup. And I remember it because the camera pans to me as a 21-year-old guy standing there clocking John Henry, okay? And the announcer on the show, was on a TV show, and I still got the clip from all those years ago. The guy says, thoroughbred racing is the #1 spectator sport in the United States. And that was like 1981, okay? Now, I don't even know if we're on the list of the spectator sports. They don't even talk about us. I mean, unless it's something bad or negative. It's a shame, you know what I mean? Even with the 2 Triple Crown winners, yeah, they got a little bit of mention. We got a little bit of publicity, but we don't nearly get the attention that we used to, and most of it's our own fault. Like you said, we don't market the positives about the sport at all.
The access to the stars too. I mean, the access to the stars is remarkable, and you can't get that in media, movies, sports. You definitely can't. Baseball, football. Right. We've tried to get Tom Brady and Rob Gronkowski on. It's not happening.
Yeah, no, right. You have to know them or know somebody that knows them because they're pretty nice guys, and they probably come on if you can reach out to them the right way.
Yeah.
But the thing of it is, and you guys do get great guests. I've noticed that about your show. You guys get great guests. Present company excluded, of course.
I mean, you got more compliments than anybody else got.
Not everybody hits a home run the old time. Like, here goes the neighborhood. You had me on, but everybody makes a mistake. But you guys have great guests, and there is a lot of accessibility with horse racing. You see riders interacting with people on social media and Twitter. most of the big athletes and stuff, if they don't know you, they don't answer you, maybe a like or a retweet, maybe if you're lucky, but you've got riders that'll interact. And then you got, people that get like just nasty. It's okay to criticize or critique somebody or be unhappy with a ride, but they call names, they bash. And I saw one guy on social media tell a guy, I hope you fall and get hurt, and then when they don't interact, you want to know why, you know what I mean? It's just ridiculous.
That was the one part of your interview with Chantel that bothered me when she said she was thinking about, from the backlash, not opening up and, telling people, bringing them behind the scenes again. That wasn't the point of our interview. That's not a point of any interview that we have with anybody. We don't want to get the people who are involved in any way, shape, or form hurt. One quick question for you from Jordan. She says, what's your favorite tracks to bet? I'm going to imagine you want to bet the tracks that attract the most money.
Yeah, I have certain meets that I gravitate to. I like Saratoga a lot because I grew up; it was my bread and butter. But most of the big meets, I like Saratoga. I like Keeneland in the spring. But it's me more than the meets and the tracks. It's the days. I like Derby Day. I like Belmont Day. I like Travers Day. I like the Breeders' Cup days. I like the Big Five Saturday from Naira. I like Santa Anita Handicap Day. Those are big days where you have a little better quality racing, I think, levels the playing field a little bit, and big pools. And also on those days, you get a lot of what I call recreational money. People who only play on those days are feeding those pools. I'm going to beat those people all day long. It's like the movie Rounders when the guy sits down and plays on a blind. You know what I mean? I grew up dealing poker in clubs in Brooklyn. You know what I mean? I could sit down at a table and know right away if I'm, probably going to win or not. So, and barring a tremendously horrible luck run of cards, I'll know if I'm going to win, and I will. Same thing on those days. That gives you an edge. The more recreational money in the pool, the more less serious money in the pool. That helps.
Oh, yes, helps. Indeed, for sure. One other question here. What was the gentleman's name that you interviewed that worked on the starting gate in New York?
That was a dear friend of mine, Raymond DiStefano. He is actually the guy that held Ruffian in his arms when they euthanized her. He worked for that vet clinic at that time when they brought her in. And he's the one that actually was holding her when she was euthanized. So that's kind of a historic spot in the sport to be in. Not a very good spot, but as fate would have it, that was him. And she couldn't have been with a better guy, to tell you the truth, because he is a true animal lover. Like myself, I am an animal lover and an animal advocate, and I do have my inner conflicts with our sport and some of the things that go on in it. And I would be lying if I say that every day it doesn't cross my mind to just walk away from it because of some of the things that I see. But I love it. It's my life. I try and look at the good and the positive, and there are a lot of people who do the right thing and take care of the horses, and I applaud them and try and hope for more of that. And the people that don't,
just some common sense sometimes I think would help out, right? I saw yesterday at Gulfstream, I think it was, or Parks, where a horse was getting a little bit, you could tell it was getting claustrophobic in the gate. And it seems to me there should be like a panic button that the jockey can hit or the starter can hit so that gate can open so that horse can come out and not have a complete freak out session. And, and then it gets all trapped in the gate, and that's when it really can get hurt.
Yeah, so I've seen some horrible gate accidents.
Mm-hmm. All right, well, we've taken up enough of your time. We apologize for that.
No, my pleasure, guys. Pleasure. You guys are gentlemen. I appreciate that. I appreciate you having me. So thank you very much. If I could ever help you guys in any way, just let me know, and I'd be happy to do it.
Coming here helps us a lot. So if folks want to keep up with you, what's the best way for them to keep up with you? There's PastTheWire.com, and then how about socially?
And there's Past the Wire TV on YouTube. There's links to that. I'm at Jonathan Stettin on Twitter, and at Past the Wire is on Twitter as well. So I'm a pretty easy guy to find and follow. It's just Past the Wire is the easiest way. And there is a lot of good content and a lot of interesting stuff on the site in every possible area of the sport that you could imagine.
For sure. Once again, thank you, Jonathan. Look forward to having you on again. Obviously, the folks that were watching, they can't wait for you to be back. So we'll be in contact next week.
How do I get off? You guys kick me out, or do I?
Well, you want us to kick you out? I mean, you don't have to get out of here. How does that saying go? You don't have to go home. You sure as hell got to get out of here.
I've been kicked out of nicer places than this. That's okay.
All right. I'll kick you out. All right. Have a great night.
Thanks, guys. Really appreciate it.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Thank you.
Ciao.
And like that, we kick him out, Shawn. So he says, like today, there's stupid money. I don't think it's stupid money. I just agree with him. There's recreational money. I think there's people that are making bets on those days, Shawn, like he mentioned, the Pegasus coming up, right? There's going to be people who do bet on Knicks Go and do bet on Life is Good. And I think he's right. You got to take a stand on one of them if you're going to do like a pick 3 or a pick 4 or something like that. And I can only think back to what Robert Tino told us, right? For the Breeders' Cup Classic when he was facing Essential Quality. I'm going to always take the older horse, right?
Mm-hmm. Yep.
So, I mean,
and
the
you know
things
what?
that we learn on this show, Shawn, this is honestly, this is why we have these shows, because in creating what we have here, I felt like there was a gap where people weren't getting to know the people in the sport, around the sport, and who are successful at the sport. We get the news stories all the time, as he said, something that goes wrong. If it bleeds, it leads. We felt like we can fill that gap, and it looks like it's working, Shawn.
Yeah, absolutely. Like, you know, like I've said, I get to talk to some of these people. I get to text them. They're really nice. They'll do anything for us. And we're trying to share that with everybody else so that you realize that these guys are accessible and what these people are about too. Mm-hmm. And then also with a show like tonight, you enhance your betting too. I mean, this guy, Jonathan's very successful at what he does. So we can all learn from him. And I, you know, some of the stuff he said, guess what? I'm creature of habit, and I'm guilty of exactly what he's saying. You do a pick 4 or even a pick 6. Yeah, I'm going to take both and go, you know what? I'm going to survive that race because I can't be beat with one of these 2 horses. But
and usually you are beat by a third one, right? I mean, that's
yeah. And logically, kind of like what he's saying, you take a stand, yes, but then also if you want to include a second horse, you should include another one that's higher odds that if he wins, you're really gonna cash out. So
well, that's the way that's the way I look at it, Shawn. To me, when I'm betting, I feel like, because if you understand how the pools work, right? It's the number of tickets in the pool, the house takes out its cut, and then it's what's left is divided by the number of winning tickets. That's the math, right? So if you have a favorite and he's on 50 or she's on 50% of the tickets, and then that horse loses, you cut the number of people immediately in half that you're sharing the winning payouts with, if you should win, right? I mean, that's the given, like in a geometry question. You got to get that part right.
Yeah, and you said about the older horse, and the public usually goes to the younger horse that has the more potential, or the horse they haven't seen yet. Life is Good have a bad race, so they're gonna go to him. Life is Good might even be the favorite in that race, which would be
well. It doesn't mean Life is Good can't win. He just said pick one.
Yeah, exactly. But you were saying about the older horse, but the public seems to go with the younger horse, where they've seen more good than they've seen bad, and they think has more potential.
Yes, indeed, for sure. So to me, that's the holy grail, figuring out the right way to bet. I want one of those $500,000 ones. So maybe to get a $500,000 one, Shawn, all we got to do is bet on Trevor McCarthy, right?
Yeah, there you go. And that's the other thing too, is you need a lot of money to make a lot of money. I mean, you need to be in a spot to be able to do $1,000 pick 6 to hit these big ones sometimes.
I've always been a kind of an advocate. So I brought up Trevor. Sorry, Trevor. Too many T's and E's and D's in these names nowadays. But I bring up Trevor because if you want to know how to win, Shawn, you just got to come on our show, right? We had Trevor on, and then, well, to be fair, he did win a bunch of races before we brought him on, but certainly didn't lose any momentum by coming on the show. And he was named the Jockey of the Week.
Yeah, it's great. And Trevor's another one. He would come, if we asked him to be on the show every night, if he could do it, he would do it. Great guy. And it's awesome to see, it wasn't his first choice to come back to New York. He loved it out West. He just wasn't getting the business out West, but it's awesome to see him having so much success coming home, basically.
Yeah, I mean, winning is winning. I mean, winning breeds confidence, right? Confidence brings winning. That's the old Dale Carnegie thing, right? Confidence breeds success. Success breeds confidence, and it starts to build on itself.
And we'll go to some of the this is exactly what we were talking about, the negativity. You get comments, oh, no, Trevor didn't win these races. The horses won these races. If you saw some of the races Trevor won, He's coming up the rail. He's riding. He knew the track bias. He was riding the horse to make him win. Yes, the horse needed to perform, but not all those races. A lot of those races, actually, he didn't have the best horse. He was winning with 5-1, 6-1, 10-1 horses.
Well, that doesn't necessarily mean he doesn't have the best horse, Shawn, because that just means he doesn't. The bettors didn't. The bettors didn't. They did not assess the race correctly. I think any jockey will tell you that the horse makes the race for sure. But I do think that much like NFL running backs, and I think, and maybe this is a question we should probably ask a jockey next time we have one on. I believe that vision is what makes the great jockeys, right? Is that much like an NFL running back, they know where the hole is going to be, not where it is. And they're able to put themselves in a position to go where the hole is going to be, not where the hole is. And that's why you see a ton of running backs that run to where the play is supposed to go. They'll get 3 or 4. What do they say? They get the yards that are blocked for them, right? That's the scouting term. And I think the truly great jockeys have a good understanding of how the race is playing out internally, and they're able to translate that intrinsically on the track.
Yes. But also we've talked to jockeys, and when they're hot, they're hot. So they're obviously adding to that horse. And I think jockeys are very humble when it comes to them winning. They'll give 90%, sometimes 95%, some 99% that it was all the horse. I think they're very humble in that aspect.
For sure.
I think it's a lot more.
So there's an interesting story to me coming out of England. Did you see this story, Shawn, about how the British Horse Racing Authority for COVID, they added 3 pounds in allowed because there were no saunas or any of that sort of stuff. I guess because of COVID, there's still no saunas or any of these weight loss type things. And I know from wrestling in high school and college, boy, losing weight sucks. I couldn't imagine doing it. Like when I was done with wrestling, I swore I'd never be on a diet again because I hated losing weight that much. I can't imagine needing to stay on weight for life. But this 1 pound really, because now that's up 2 pounds instead of 3, really has the jockeys upset.
Yeah, every pound means something, when you're a jockey like this. So yeah, I'm not sure why they have to change it that 1 pound and they can't leave it like it
at
is.
3, right? You would think, what's 1 pound, right? Like a horse knows the difference between 1 pound.
It's going to make a lot more of a difference with the jockey making the weight than it is with the horse. So I'm not sure why they couldn't if they could make an exception with COVID and stuff, I don't know why they couldn't just make that permanent.
And I can tell you from personal experience, Shawn, when you step on that scale and you have to lose a pound and you have to lose it in a short order, most of these jockeys, I'm sure, have about as much water weight out of them they can get out of them when they're getting on the scales to make sure they're on weight. That last pound is usually the most difficult one to get off. And it's like you can lose it when you have plenty of water weight in no time. But if you've got most of it off, what used to take you maybe 15 minutes is now going to maybe take you an hour to get off of you. And I can understand why they'd be upset over that 1 pound. And then finally, speaking of, I guess, money, I don't know what other way to put it, but in California, they've had a big influx of cash, right? The bettors putting a lot of money in 2021 well, I mean, 2020 was probably not a good comparison, but still was a very strong year for horse racing in California money-wise. And one of the things in here, though, they talk about how, and this didn't include the Breeders' Cup or the stuff that they had with TVG, but what they're saying is how strong the horse racing is in California. It's never been a better time to race in California. And to some degree, I agree with that, but some degree I disagree with that because you have some competing interests out there in their legislative bodies that are against horse racing and actually kind of want to get rid of it. So I don't know that horse racing might be able to survive the politics of California.
That and again, the horse fields are a lot smaller. So that's the other thing they're battling out there. But again, we say how horse racing's, fighting themselves and all this and that, but everything keeps going up money-wise. So in that aspect, I guess we're doing better. Sometimes you wish the money would go maybe to the tote system or the photos. Some of that stuff should get upgraded, and maybe we could even get more money into the sport.
Like I said, I think what they have to promote is the personalities, right? Mm-hmm. And I think you have to effectively market against sports betting, right? Sports betting is simple. I take Tampa Bay. I get 7 points. If they win, I get my money back. I know how much I'm going to get back, right? Because I've had folks who bet sports who try to ask me, I don't understand. You mean the odds I see aren't the odds that I get? And because of that, they're a little bit nervous about betting on horse racing. And I try to explain to them how it's a matter of you against the house. It's like poker. Against the other bettors, it's like poker, and you actually get better numbers. So I think that the business has to do a better job of explaining how that works. And like we're doing, getting the personalities front and center.
Absolutely. 100%.
All right, Shawn. So that wraps up tonight's show, much longer than we're used to going. I can see you got the eyeballs going up like, okay, I got to get up and get out of here. Tomorrow night, we're going to discuss the Pegasus, as we talked a little bit about with Jonathan there. Our guest is going to be, and I'm going to get this right, Jay Marco, to have it up on here, Claudia Spadaro. How about that? I think I got it right. There she is.
I think you're right. Yep.
She's going to join us tomorrow night. She does all the Spanish language stuff for Gulfstream Parks. It'd be a fantastic show. We'll talk about the last 3 races on the Gulfstream card, which includes the 2 Pegasus races. And I forget the 3rd race on there, but I think it's race 10, 11, and 12. So we'll have that. We'll talk to Claudia about what it's like to be on sports, where she comes from, and all sorts of questions along those lines.
Yeah, Jordan says, I think John had more to say. We probably could have kept John on here all night, but
yeah, but we I don't want to impose. Do you know what I'm saying, Shawn?
Well, not to mention we can get him on down the line and he can elaborate more. But
let me just add to that a little asterisk to that. We tell people when they come on, they're going to be on 10 to 15 minutes.
Yeah.
So when I'm looking at the clock in the corner and I'm seeing 40, I'm like, yeah, maybe we're stretching it a little bit here, right?
No, but he was good with it. He's totally fine with it. Yeah, but those Gulfstream races, those last 3 races are really good races too. So I can't wait to dive into those tomorrow. Also, we'll probably have a Q&A up tomorrow with Claudia. So
yes, I sent them off. I look forward to that. Hopefully she shares some of her recipes with us, right?
Yeah, exactly. And we'll get to find out more about her if you don't know a lot about her.
I'm sure we can. You get Raymond DeStefano on your show, Shawn? Can we get him on? That's
Possible.
Your show, by the way. I did not know.
Yeah, I didn't know neither. Well, and that's the other thing. Somebody commented about the great guests. Thank you for that. But also these guests, people I reach out to that do come on, and they're great.
Yeah, they have to be willing to come on to be great guests.
Yeah, exactly. And if you don't see somebody on here, that's a big name, or you think should come on, let us know. And then also
just like this, right? This is the one thing I wanted to say earlier. This is Shawn and I might be the ones on here on the screen, but this is a community. We want everybody's input, right? So
Absolutely.
Hit us up in the comments, hit us up in Facebook, tweet at us at Horse Race Today on Twitter and Facebook. Shawn will soon be dancing on TikTok with juggling some chainsaws. But what's the Instagram one? Same thing?
No, Instagram's just pictures, and then
but
Facebook
what's the handle, Shawn?
Oh, at Horse Race Today.
Horse Race Today too. Okay.
Yeah,
and then if you're on YouTube right now, we help us get to 1,000. So hit the subscribe button if you like what we saw. We're going to continue to get great guests. As Robert mentioned, if you have suggestions like Robert, let us know. We'll go out and reach out and see if we can bring them on the show. And then feel free to come in and ask questions like we did tonight.
Absolutely.
All right, Shawn, any final things before we get up and out of here on this hump night?
No, that's it. Can't wait for tomorrow night. And then again, I won't be able to wait till next week. I got the guests lined up that's on social, and it'll be on social over the weekend and stuff to promote Monday. But I can't wait till Horse Center returns on Monday.
And I think
I the show as much as everybody else and the guests too.
Yeah, it's fun for us. Yeah, for sure. And I thank Philip Perkins, Matt Wolfson, Robert Bryan for giving us a thumbs up and liking us on Twitter and Facebook. The more of that we get, the higher up we go up the algorithms, the more people come into the show. And also word of mouth is another great way to tell folks about us.
Yeah, Jordan says about Mark Patterson. I've talked to Mark Patterson, and I could get him on probably anytime. So I can definitely get him on. That will probably be another hour show. He would love to come on here and tell everybody about what
you're trying to say.
Yeah. He loves it. So yes, he would be a great guest, and we will have him on sometime.
Put it succinctly. He likes to talk. All right, Shawn. Well, we're going to get up and out of here. Terry and I think are going to do Aqueduct tomorrow, but I guess there's like some bad weather heading out to the Northeast. So maybe things are going to get canceled. I don't know.
Just cold again. Saturday's when the snow's coming, so Saturday maybe when Aqueduct.
You got to call 911
for snow?
No, someone broke in your house right there.
No, that was Blake dumping his toys.
All right, Shawn. I'll let you go, man. Much like we let John go. You have a great night, Shawn. Everybody, thanks for joining us. We appreciate you spending your time with us. It's the most valuable commodity all of us have is time. So I'm humbled that you do spend that time with us. We greatly appreciate it. Have a fantastic night, Shawn. And what is our close now?
Well, you're supposed to set me up here. I know it.
All right. Hopefully you win
all your photos.
Absolutely. Have a fantastic night. Terry and I will see you tomorrow at 12 o'clock. Tom and I will be back on Monday at 12 o'clock Eastern. Tom and I will do Foreign Fridays at 1 o'clock Eastern. We're going to do Dubai. I think right now that's what it looks like it's going to be. And then Saturday, Terry and I will also be doing some stakes handicapping as well. Looking forward to that. Everyone have a great night. See you tomorrow. And may you win all your photos. And let me find the right button to get up and out of here, Shawn.